Ian Ansegray here for episode 81 of the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. Wow, I'm so excited to be joined by my good friend Ramone Ray. How are you doing, Ramone?
Ian, I am fantastically well, being able to talk to you, talk to your audience, talk to your community. We're friends. We have a lot to share. So I'm good. A day could not be better, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I just love hanging out with you. We've known each other at least 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm going to ask you this question maybe later on, see if you can remember. But it was definitely a social media marketing world, which is obviously an awesome place to be. If just to let you know, today we're going to be talking about how to be a celebrity CEO on your local business live streams, which is a really exciting topic. We've not talked so much about local business, and certainly not about the whole concept of being a celebrity CEO, which I know is something that is dear to your heart. Ramon, you've written about this in one of your books. Is called Celebrity CEO, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
Which is awesome.
Indeed it is.
Well, that's great. Well, if you are watching the replay, all you need to do is just put #replay in the comments. I'd love to know that if you're watching the replay. And if you're watching live, don't be shy. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. Where are you streaming in from today, Ramone?
And by the way, I'm from the vacation capital, not of the U.S., of the world.
Ooh,
the vacation capital of the world, New Jersey, my friend. This is where everybody comes to for vacation and pleasure. This is the place to be.
Well, there we go. I obviously need to, well, maybe not this year. Let's get this year out of the way, but I'm coming to
New Jersey. And I bet you never knew that either, did you?
I did not know that. I've got some relatives who live in New Jersey, but it's obviously...
And they've never told you, huh?
No, they never told me. Oh, well, now I know. Awesome. And also just to let you know, if you would like to not miss any of these shows, which of course is not what you want to do, then all you need to do is subscribe to my Facebook Messenger bot, which is at confident.live/subscribe. It even rhymes, confident.live/subscribe. So what have you been up to for the last couple of days? I think you've been a very busy boy, haven't you?
Yeah, I have been indeed. You know, a lot of things going on. I'm blessed to say, Ian, again, those who are watching us whose businesses have been decimated. I always say this, and I don't say it, off the cuff, but I really do think about those who've been laid off, businesses tanking. Blessings to you, and I feel that to some degree. I hope things get better. But yes, for my business, Ian, I've been busy, which is good in our line of work, any kind of busy. And just 2 days ago, as you know, I was at a big event, America's Small Business Development Center. I know you have a global show here. So in the U.S., it's kind of part of the federal government's outreach to small businesses, ASBDC. So it's a 2-day conference. And for the geeks, I'll just touch on, as we talked in the green room, I went to D.C., I live in New Jersey. We had a little studio there, cameras and lights, a team shooting the video stuff to Zoom and Wirecast and cool stuff. And then we had 4,000 people or so in the live event chatting and all that. So it was interesting how the hybrid, I wasn't just here like we're doing in Zoom or whatever the platform may be. I went somewhere to kind of upgrade it. So the studio was a bit better. We had a real professional team who knew what they're doing shooting it instead of just me and the camera. So it was pretty cool.
Well, you definitely want, you do want to be in the company with people who know what they're doing, because that gets rid of the stress. You can just get on with what you're wanting to do, which is obviously present. So that's awesome. And I think there is definitely, this is the way things are going, moving to like a hybrid event. You know, when things supposedly get back to normal, I don't think they'll go back completely to normal. And I think this hybrid event is going to allow people to go to events on the other side of the world without actually having to leave their house, which is
that's right. And I just want to add one thing, Ian. Part of the challenge I find with that, in other words, when we go to the events that you and I have gone to before, SMMW, for example, whatever, you fly there, all your time is there, your wife or kids or husband, whatever it may be, you're away. You're within that time. I found it hard, Ian. Let's say Ian's doing a 2-day event. I'm home. So that means I have to come to my office and sit here for 2 days. When I could be like, you know what, I'm going to run out to the park real quick. You follow what I mean? So I think that's the only tough part of it. I'm not in the hotel wherever in the world. I'm at home, but yet I paid $400, $500, $1,000 for this 3-day event. Yeah. It's kind of hard.
It's a hard life. It is, but it's got the both sides to it, hasn't it? It's got the fact that if you go to a kind of conference at the place at a hotel, you're away from your wife and kids, which is bad, but you're also having fun and being able to communicate, to talk with other people, to network as well. So there's two sides to it. Awesome. Well, I think it's time to get on with the show. Just one thing. I wonder whether we do have some problems, some tech problems with the comments, which is a shame. I see an error message at the bottom. So if you are watching live, could you do me a favor and just type a comment, whether you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're going, just put a comment just to say that you're here. I would love that. And then I can know whether it's working or not. That'd be awesome. But let's get on with the show. We'll see you just after this.
This is the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. Confident Live Marketing Podcast with Ian Anderson Gray, helping entrepreneurs level up their impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. Gain confidence in front of the camera, confidence with technology, and confidence with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Hello, it's Ian Anderson Gray here for the Confident Live Marketing Show. This is episode 81, and today I'm going to be joined by Ramone Ray to talk about how to be a celebrity CEO in your local business live streams. This episode, as always, is sponsored by Content 10X. A little bit more about them in a bit. And I also want to let you know, if you want to subscribe to my bot at confident.live/subscribe, you will never miss one of these live shows. I go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can get notified before we go live each time. So it's time to bring in my first sponsor, which is Content 10X. Who is my main sponsor of the show, and they've been sponsoring it basically right back to the start of this podcast. I'm so grateful to these guys. Amy, who is the founder of Content 10X, is a good friend of mine, and she's also been on this podcast quite a few times. They are a specialist content repurposing agency, so they can take that one live stream or blog post or podcast or whatever it is and explode it, you know what I'm going to say, into a plethora of new platform-specific on-brand content. And if they don't do it for you via their service, they can also teach you how to do it yourself, whether that's on their podcast or their blog or their book or their toolkit. They're really smart, responsive, creative, and effective. And if you want to take the stress out of content marketing, they are the people to go to. Also, do check out their new service, LinkedIn 10X. If you're wanting to raise your game and level things up on LinkedIn, if you're wanting to just reach a bigger audience and be more effective on LinkedIn, check out their LinkedIn 10X service. All you need to do is create one video, one piece of content every week, and then they will take that and, as Amy says, turn it into lots of video babies and lots of other things on LinkedIn. It's really, really awesome. So check out content10x.com for more information. Right, it's time to bring in my guest, Ramone. Ramone Ray is the founder of Smart Hustle Media. He's an entrepreneur, author, and speaker who loves burnt pancakes and bacon, which I'm going to have to ask him about that. It's normally burnt bacon and pancakes, but the burnt pancakes bit slightly concerns me. Anyway, his passion is telling the stories, challenges, and successes of small business owners. Ramone has authored 4 books. His latest is Celebrity CEO, How Entrepreneurs Can Thrive by Building a Strong Personal Brand. Ramone, welcome to the show.
Ian, thanks for having me. And I hope, if you don't mind, I can take time to talk about one of your sponsors, too. I have a good word to say, if I may. If not,
we'll move on. Do go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say Content 10X. I think that, not them particularly, but I just want to say that what they're doing, Ian, I just wanted to echo. It's so important because you and I know this world, and we hear all these other people talk about content. For those of us who are growing, Ian, you can't do it by yourself. When I say you can't, you can. But as you've taught me, as we've talked offline, you want to focus on what you do best. Let people like Content X do it for you. That's all I wanted to say, is that it's such a great tool. And I love that. What, video babies? That's new. I've never heard that one. I like that.
Yeah. It's taking those big pieces of content and turning them into little snippets, which I love.
Yes.
So that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I can see we do have comments. Unfortunately, I can't see them in the system. So we have a tech gremlin, which always happens from time to time on live video. But I can see on Facebook, at least, we've got Tim Sorn watching. Hi, Tim. Hope you're doing really well. Hey. And I can see Alicia watching as well. So Tim was saying, wow, 4,000 people. That's amazing. And the hybrid event idea is really interesting. And I've found I'm so much more efficient with my time. So I suppose since the lockdown, I think Tim's talking about. Have you found that? Have you been more efficient with your time?
I think so, Ian. But as you know, we need one of those, I don't know, Simon Sinek people, or one of those really, you're smart, but one of those really smart, like academic people, because we think we are, but I'm afraid to say I am being more efficient with my time, because maybe I'm not. But I know it seems like I'm getting more done, especially when you compare, Ian, to not waiting an hour each way on the airport, taking the Uber to the hotel, things like that, comparing live events to virtual. Yes, we're being more efficient with our time for sure. But listen, I thought, Ian, I wasn't missing in-person people, in-person events, but I can't wait to hug you, Ian. I mean, really, I may even give you a kiss on the cheek or something. So,
that might be going a little bit too far, but I'll forgive that. But yeah, it's so true. I would describe myself as an introvert. I do like my own space, and I find that I focus much better when I'm on my own. But there's sometimes too much of a good thing. And I think we need each other. I love bouncing ideas off people and just hanging out with people who get me. I've always enjoyed hanging out with you in person, and it's great that we have the blessing of meeting up every week to catch up, and that's really awesome. So yeah, unfortunately the tech isn't working. So if you are commenting on Facebook or LinkedIn, I will try and toggle between them on my phone, but apologies for that. But I'm going to ask you, Ramone, can you remember? Well, first of all, we met each other at Social Media Marketing World. I can remember us having breakfast one morning at the I don't know what hotel it was. The Marriott?
We had it at a bar, meaning at the context was on a bar, whatever you call it, not the tables like behind you, but sitting at the bar. I recall. Yes, I recall that. It was awesome. It was awesome. I was like, I think we just crossed paths, right? It was like, who are you? And I guess we felt a vibe, or we just said, I'm hungry, you're hungry, and sat. Something like that, as I recall. But I recall when we first met, yes.
Absolutely. And I've had the honor to have you being the, what's the technical phrase? You've been doing...
room host.
Room host, yeah. And
something like that.
I think for the last 2 or 3 years, you have been my room host, and I couldn't ask for a better room host. You put so much passion and energy into it. And so... Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to ask you, when was your first ever live video experience? Can you remember that? And I always like to ask my guests on the show, can you share with us any live video disasters, just to make us feel better that we're not the only ones who have disasters?
Sure. My first live video experience that I can remember, and you can help me triangulate the exact dates on this because you'll probably understand what I'm saying, but I used Ustream, and I bet, Ian, I was going to say half your audience doesn't know it, but a lot of your audience is techie people, so they probably will. But anyhow, when I'm done, you can help me package all this together better. But I was using Ustream, one of the old regular video cameras that now we probably have in a box somewhere. Using that, I was at the United Nations, and my French boss at the time, Jean-Marc Craco, Ramone, let us try to stream this Ustream. Can we do this? I'm like, I'm a techie, as probably most of your listeners are, so I'll figure it out. So that was Ustream, a video camera, and I think you had to download their software, some plug-in in the middle on a PC, stream it. As I recall, then you give people that link, and that was the first stream I did. When it was, I don't remember, but maybe 5 years, 10 years, whatever that time would have been. You can help me with that. When do you think that would have been?
So like Ustream was around when So we had Lou Mangello on the show, and he so this was a few weeks ago, and he started his first live streaming experience, I think, was using Ustream.
Right.
So that might have been like 10 plus years ago, I think.
Right.
I think my first live video experience was a little bit after that. So that was Google Hangouts on Air. But yeah. I mean, a lot of people, they think that live video is quite a new thing, but it's been around for a while.
Right. I think the consumerization of it has been short, and I think that's interesting, the technology. A lot of these things you can do. Come on. Isn't NBC News one big live stream? They just happen to be using a $100 million satellite or whatever they're doing. So I think the next evolution of that then was things like Ustream, which made it a bit more consumerable for anybody with the wherewithal to be techie. Like I was doing FTP to a website years ago as well. I didn't know it was called blogging. I was just updating my site 3 times a day. But I think now, anybody can do it, meaning anybody can do it on some level. But to do some ninja stuff, it takes people like Ian to help do it better. But so that was my first one. You asked for a disaster. Hard to remember an exact disaster because I've had a lot, Ian. Well, not too many, or I probably wouldn't be in business. But listen, I think We all fail. Things like, oh, here's one, and it's not exactly like live stream disaster, Ian, but you'll probably identify with this, where you do the epic video to your audience. Maybe you even cried. It's like perfect, came from on high. 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and you realized you said all that, and it was nothing. You go back and you're like, honey, I just gave a great video. You post the comments and your audience is like, Ramone, we can't hear you. No, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I've been pouring out my soul. So I've had those things happen, Ian, for sure.
And it is always the best ones, the ones when everything is going well, and then you forget to switch the microphone on, or something goes wrong. Yeah,
correct. You had the lights on, the batteries in, the thing was right. You did your hair, even in my case, it takes me a lot longer to do my hair than you, Ian, but the USB cable or whatever the thing was, mic wasn't on. So,
well, these things happen, but thankfully the tech is a lot easier these days than they were back in the Ustream days. But still, tech does sometimes not work, and today is no exception to that. So obviously we've got the comments problem. I'm also checking on LinkedIn, and for some reason we're broadcasting a black screen at the moment, so that's interesting. But we're definitely on Facebook, so there we go. Awesome. It's all good. It's all good, and we as ever, this turns into a podcast. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, all you need to do is go to iag.me/podcast, and you can listen to this on using your ears, which is fabulous. So we've talked about live video disasters. Let's get on to the whole celebrity CEO thing. I love the title, and I love, actually, one of the things I was going to do, and I didn't get a chance to do it, was actually put highlight the cover of your book, because I love the cover of your book. It's so you're just standing there with so much energy. It's fab. So what is a celebrity CEO? How can we become one? And you mentioned something about this in your email to me about Beyonce. Tell us more about Beyonce.
Yeah. So here's the thing, is that I think everybody subliminally, or however they're doing it, Ian, they want to be Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Michael Jackson, these famous people that many of us know, like, and trust. But Ian, it's nigh impossible to be a globally famous business person. There's only one Jeff Bezos, Donald Trump, Obama, whoever, Queen of England. That echelon, whatever the word may be, you can teach me English after this, Ian, is tough. But I think what we all can do is be the celebrity CEO. And that's the power of being small business. So Beyonce, etc., few of us can do that. Very few can be a Captain Sully. Even he's probably not famous to everybody. But my point about celebrity CEO, it simply means this, Ian. You can be very well known, in your niche, as Ian and I are in that world, whether it's Ian's well known for live streaming, I may be well known for educating small businesses in general, etc. So that's being well known in your niche, or you can be well known geographically. I don't know much about, the UK landscape geographically, but say in New Jersey, there's a town called Woodbridge. You could be known as the best car mechanic in a little town, Woodbridge, New Jersey. So Ian, that is the core concept, that we should stop trying to be globally known. Or even, I'm going to be the best known as the best live streamer or the best content marketer. It's too big. But you can be known as the best real estate person in Austin. You can be known or as the best, senior care person in Western Europe, if you get what I'm trying to say. So that's the essence of this concept of celebrity CEO.
I love that. And you get extra points for pronouncing niche the correct way. Well done.
It's taken a while. I used to say the other word, but it's taken a while.
Well, unfortunately, with the phrase, to get rich, you need to find your niche. Doesn't quite rhyme. But anyway, Correct. There we go. But I think that's great. I think so many businesses out there feel that they are struggling with the numbers. And we've talked about numbers on the show before. I think sometimes we can get overly obsessed by the numbers. We can look at our numbers and think, they're really low. And we're comparing ourselves with other businesses out there. Maybe we had Neil Schaefer on the show recently talking about the different types of influencers there, whether you are macro or micro or nano influencer now. So I think that's really encouraging, that instead of focusing on the big, on the global, we should be focusing on being ourselves. I mean, that's the whole personal branding thing, which I'm going to talk to you about. But focus on the local, and I think that's really encouraging. And actually, it's interesting. There's a Woodbridge in the UK as well. So
there you go. And I can tell you, Ian, if there's time, can I slip in one more thing?
Of course.
Something that I'm going through. Smart Hustle, as you know, we've talked offline. We're friends about various things I'm going through. And I think even for myself, smarthustle.com, I had been thinking, and Ian, I'm struggling through this as we speak. So this is live. Who am I competing against? Am I the Inc., Entrepreneur.com, Forbes, Fortune, BuzzFeed, whatever, of small business? Is that who smarthustle.com is? For years, Ian, I had thought maybe that's who it is. But I realize, Ian, more and more, that game is hard and probably takes more money than I have. But I should start just being Ramone. Ramone has a following, as Ian does. I'm one of Ian's followers. Ian's one of my followers. I have a following. Let me just serve them. This doesn't mean I don't want to go bigger and better. I will, and I am. But if you kind of get what I'm trying to say is that even myself, I struggle with, let me be like that person, this person. Why did this person post something on Instagram and get 5,000 likes and I got 10? One was probably my mother's or something. So that game can play mental games with us, but most people are not going to be huge at that level. And to your point of the numbers, you can still feed your family, live a good life, and pay yourself well, but not have a huge, whatever huge may be, following. Thanks for letting me say that rant too.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I was shouting hooray and I was going amen, and as we say in the UK, amen. But it was great stuff. Because I think I don't know whether it's particularly a problem with entrepreneur type people. It probably is an issue with lots of people, and it's the whole comparison syndrome. I've talked about this a lot on the show. You know, you look out there and you look at the really successful businesses. The businesses have probably been established for a long time. They may have a completely different personality from you. They're doing a really great job, but you're comparing, and then you're getting really down on yourself. You're thinking, well, I could never do that, and then you're going into the pit of despair, which is not the place where you want to be. You want to be you. And at the end of the day, do you want to try and be a clone of somebody else and do a really poor job? Or do you want to get people who love you and love what you do and believe in what you do? And so definitely stuff. So when it comes to local businesses, if we're going to be focusing on the local, where does live video come into this? Because I think a lot of the time we are looking at, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking global. You know, YouTube, we can have a global audience on YouTube, and you can go, I'm broadcasting to lots of different channels, which I think that's a good thing. But from a local point of view, isn't all of this just a bit too much? I mean, should local businesses be embracing live video?
Yeah, great point. So I think, yes, they should. And I think that the trap, and you can help, we'll banter here. I want to get your input too, Ian, is the how. So let's take, since you mentioned Ian's business, a little different, globally known to a degree. It's a little different than what Ian's doing, because he can touch and reach everybody everywhere. So his business, his model, even mine, we're kind of similar in that, a little different. But to local, to Betty, to Roger, to Dave, to Susan, to whoever it may be, who's really focused on local, whether I'm a local marketer, that's fair game, or I'm a local plumber, or whatever it may be, the people in your neighborhood, the people who are right around you, the pizza shop, right there. The shoe shine guy, right there. The accounting office, right over there, over the hill. Generally speaking, and there's pre-COVID and post-COVID, we can get to that. But the point is, in normal days, they're only focused on what's around them. So I think, yes, live video. Imagine you going to the local coffee shop. And by the way, Ian, actually, I do that. You may have seen some of my coffee with Ramone. I don't do it as consistent as you're doing it, Ian, but I'm starting to do some things. But the point is, in my crazy way, just doing 100 different things. But what I'm getting to is that imagine going to the local coffee shop, doing a live stream from the coffee shop. Hey, this is Becky. I'm an accountant down the block. Every Thursday, I'm going to be here with a cup of coffee and a croissant talking about a tax tip for you. Ask me your question. So here's how I see it, Ian, but I want your feedback and pushback if I'm wrong on this. Feel free. Is that people like to ask questions. Could Becky do it from her home? Yes. But by Becky being in the coffee shop, that's local. By Becky doing something live, people just like live. So does that kind of make sense what I'm trying to say? Yes, live video works. Becky has an opportunity to bring in some local feel to it and engage more people. And then what's going to happen, Ian? Last point, maybe the local mayor wants to be involved. Maybe Becky then has earned the right to interview the local council person. Maybe she can do it then from the fire department, local. So I'm a firm believer in local to be the celebrity CEO right where you are, using the power of live video.
I love that. I think it's so easy to focus on the global, and not that that's wrong, but focus on the local as well. And I love the idea of going into a local coffee shop. Yeah, okay, that might be a bit tricky at the moment, depending on where you are in the world and restrictions. If you're listening in the future, by the way, this is 2020, COVID restrictions, all this kind of stuff. Just we'll be looking back at this in the future, thinking, oh my goodness, what was all that about? Right. But yeah, I think that's great. So a friend of mine has this is Sam Ashton. I've mentioned her on the show quite a few times. She has a fabulous acronym when it comes to producing live video content, and so it's BLAST. So the B is for behind the scenes content. The L is for local content, and it's highlighting things that are happening locally. And we haven't really focused on that much on the show. The A, by the way, is a day in the life. S is sneak peek, and T is tips and advice. All of that's great stuff. Ooh. But the bit that I don't really see that many people doing is the local. And I have to admit, I don't do that much either. I have done a few lives when I've gone out on a walk in my local park, and I've shared my thoughts. I need to do more of those. I mean, so I'd love to kind of pick your brains in a way. What kind of local stuff, if people are already on live video, what stuff can they do that is local? You've mentioned the coffee shop idea, which I love. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, and before I answer that, Ian, let's you and I go back and forth a bit. Talk about yourself and myself and somebody else, just if it's helpful. Who is it not for? Who's it for? If you get what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
Okay. So meaning I think for you and I, but we'll see what you say, live show. I think we don't have to have a local play per se, because our audience, how we earn our money, how we generate our revenue, just speaking of money, speaking very practically, is not just a local play. Most people in my area, they don't know Ramone. So in that case, for you and I, and maybe some others in the audience, they may not have to go to a local play. But I think that for local businesses, especially those who've had foot traffic in there, or who want local people, that somebody in Iraq or Tanzania or New Jersey is not going to hire them, that's the local place. Let me pause there before I answer your question. Thoughts on that? Like, do you think that, maybe Ian doesn't have to focus on local? What do you think on that? Or do you push back and say no?
I think so. I would agree. So it depends on where your focus is. Where's the business going? Where is your audience? So for me, my audience is mainly in North America, US and Canada, and the UK. But see, I think I've focused a lot on the US, and I've actually, to my detriment, not focused so much on the UK, and I do have an audience in the UK. So I think sometimes you can get, I don't know, all starry-eyed and think, oh, I want to focus to my beautiful American audience, and then you forget about your poor local UK audience, And so I think you do need to look at it. Where is your audience? You need to do like an audit, if that's the right word. I've talked about this on the show that before you create a live show, create a document, and one of the bits in that document is, as well as talking about what the show's about and the themes, who is your audience? Who is this for? Think about that as well. Yeah. So thank you for that. We should always look at what it's not for. Great point.
So, I'll answer the other question that you asked about. So, some ideas. So, here's some things I would do. Just a extemporaneous example of some things people may want to consider. You're a local person. You want local foot traffic. You want local people. Start interviewing the local people in your neighborhood. It sounds weird, but let's take my case, and I'll say what these names mean for those who may not know in UK and US audiences. But it's local 7-Eleven, Quick Check, that's the local gas station, food mart place. Imagine interviewing the local franchise owner of that, or the Dunkin' Donuts. They would love to be on camera. Nobody interviews them at all. What are they going to do? They're going to share it with their family, who you probably don't care about, but they're probably going to share it with their district manager and others. That's one. Two, the elected officials. You're probably not going to get to the governor, or whatever you may call it in UK, or wherever the provincial leader, whatever it may be in your area today, but start really small. That 32-year-old guy, that 27-year-old guy who just got elected to the least, as it were, the lowest local place, interview them, or their staff member, or their janitor. That's another thing you could do. Three, what about safety issues? Your local fire department would love, the chief, as it were, would love to share with local people and give tips to the kids and et cetera. So my point being, you may say, Ramon, well, I don't want to interview all these people because it's not what I do. Make it what you do. Steer their conversation around what you do. And imagine in 6 months or 3 months, you now are an oasis of local stuff focused on you. It's all about, your frame there, serving your audience. Now when people are going to look for accounting, legal service, dog walking, whatever, whose name is going to come up? Who's that gal with the dog walking business? She just interviewed me about, tips on trash removal. So, Ian, does that kind of make sense what I'm trying to say? Or was it confusing?
No, it makes perfect sense. Really, really good stuff. So I think, focusing on the local, finding the people to interview. And you're right. There will be people who will be like totally so up for coming on a live video. Right. They'll never have done it before. They might be a little bit scared, and you might actually have to help them with some of that. And we talked about that on the show, confidence. But I think once they get started, they'll be fine. We have a local estate agent. So I think in the US, you call them real estate realtors or something. Anyway, whatever. Realtors. Yeah. So we need to translate sometimes. And so he's become a friend of mine because we've actually did a live show. I helped him do a live show, and he was wanting to reach out to people. And so that's the kind of thing, just find out who's in your area. I think that's great. I've just noticed we've got some fabulous comments watching on Facebook. As I said earlier, we have a few technical problems, so unfortunately I can't see them on the screen or highlight them. Forgive me. And but Tim Thorne says, shout out to all the Woodbridges. We've got Christine Gridman is here. Hi, Christine.
Ooh,
Great
Christine.
to see you. Lovely to see you. And Christine is saying, Ramon is on my show next Friday. Wow, it's a busy schedule. So that's awesome. She also says the value of local is definitely shifting this year. And Tim says now more than ever. So that's an interesting point. I mean, whether people watching in the future are in a kind of a lockdown, whether they're in 2020 or whatever, or in the future, things are definitely changing, and things will change, forever in a way. We talked about the fact that events are probably going to be hybrid. There's going to be an online part of it, but so things are changing. Do you think that local is even more important at the moment?
I do. And I think what I'll say is I'll define local two ways.
Yes.
I think there's local, the traditional way that we think about it, local geographically. And I think for today's episode, that's the main thrust. So we can keep going with that. But I do want to let people know also local in the aspect of your professional segment. Remember, people in professional segments hang out with each other. I'm not a true live streamer type person. Ian meaning does more than that than ever. He probably knows the top 100, 200, 500 live streamers in the world or in the US, all the people who do this, they're probably friends, buddies, they follow each other, work together. People talk together. So also remember local, I was at this ASBDC event that I was at, Ian, my world, small business, information as it were in the US. All the players hang out. All the brands, Intuit, Square, Visa, Microsoft, all their heads of small business marketing know each other. That's the pool I'm in. And people ask Ramon, how do you get these big brands? Because that's my niche. So local can mean local in the geographical segment, which we're talking about today, and we're giving some good tips. But I just want to also, for others who may be saying, well, I don't just have a local play. Local means also your professional segment is a localized way as well.
That's really important to say that. So it's not necessarily geographical, although that's probably what we're talking mainly about here. But just for if there's anyone listening or watching that thinks that, okay, that they're not really focused on their local area, it doesn't have to be just that. It could be a niche. It could be, something like that. And I think that's really important. And actually, just saying here, a comment from Christine Gritman says, my most local audience doesn't pay me, which, that's the kind of a bit of a problem there. So most business comes from a slightly broader definition of local for me. So I'd be interested, Christine, would you agree with Ramon there? Would you have a different, what is your different definition of local that works for you? Because I think that's important. And Tim says, love this, interviewing local people. And Christine's very kind, saying, "I really like the look of your frames, Ian. I'm not sure whether that's the frames of my glasses or the frames of the show. I assume you're in the show, but there we go. Your community," she says, "doesn't need just to be geographic. So yeah, let us know, Christine and Tim, what your view on that is. And if you are watching live or watching the replay, do ask some questions or do give your comments. We'd love that. I know that Ramone and myself will. If there are any questions that we can't cover or any during the show, we'll come back and we'll do that.
Indeed.
Fabulous. So this might seem a little bit of a silly question, but we see, I see the phrase personal brand or personal branding everywhere. And if you haven't heard of personal branding, this is a brand that's around you, around your personality. And I think in a local business, that's, I don't know what you would say, Ramone, is that more important? But why is a strong personal brand so important?
Sure. And if I have time, I'll talk about my own journey with this, Ian, because, I'm as we're on pedestals, we fly around the world and speak, but I think we also have issues ourselves. I know I do, struggling with this. So here's the aspect of personal branding why I think it's important for local businesses, as we're talking. This show today is about local businesses, specifically geographically. Let's take your accountant. I hate to use an accountant because we use them so much, but it's typical. You're an accountant. If you have another example you want me to say, Ian, let me know. But an accountant, you can put, Gray, Ray and Sons, Gritman and Son. You can have the fancy logo and all this stuff. People aren't buying that. Let's just be honest. People are buying your smile. They're buying Ramone Ray attorney, Ian Anderson Gray attorney, if you follow what I mean. So for me, Ian, this is why, going back to the local video we talked about, your smile, your face, maybe some of your corporate branding at the fire department, at the mayor's office, at the local Dunkin' Donuts, getting out there, getting about there, being the local friend. You're interviewing the local car wash person. They know who John Doe is. They're more familiar, most likely, with John Doe, Jane Doe, Betty Sue than with, Gunther, and PLC, whatever it is, if you get what I mean. So that's why, for me, this aspect of personal branding. And now, if you're a company, I will say caveat, if you're growing, Ian, and you're growing from a 1 or 2 person firm to 1,000 person firm, that's another playbook. You're then trying to be, what's the famous Arthur Anderson, or what's a bad name, but whatever the famous Ernst & Young. That's different. We don't even know who Ernst & Young is. But for most of us smaller companies, it's, hey, my name is Ramone. We're the local law firm down the block. We'd love to have your business. So if that's your game, you need to be out there. When I go like this, Ian, I'm referring to your face, your smile, your team, if that's helpful. So I think personal branding, yes, it's important for local businesses.
Totally agree. And this is one of the most powerful things about live video, I think, is you mentioned that communication and the fact that your audience, your fans, your customers, your audience can commute. They can ask you questions. They can get involved. They can feel part of it. But they can also see the real you. That you can't really fake it on live video. You can try. You can make really kind of snazzy, professional videos with the professional look and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to live video, that's a bit more difficult to do. This is where the whole transparency and authenticity come into it. And that's what people want. I know everyone says this, but humans buy from humans. And I think that's so important. So Christine, carry on.
I was going to add one more thing, Ian. Christine's coming up, but I just want to add one more thing about going back to the live. The power of that is asking live questions. Ian, I guarantee if I flip this interview around and said, Ian, I want to ask you 100 questions about live streaming, you could answer every single one of them. Not that you would know, I may ask you something, a serial number, you wouldn't know that. But there's no question you couldn't answer. You've done this. You could answer every question intelligently. So I think that's an asset. So imagine for that local business owner, that's where it seems scary, but you just say, ask me questions. I'm here to serve. I'm an accountant, a dog walk, whatever. I can do it, Ian. I know you could. So that's where the point of just ask me, how can I serve you? You'll build your business for sure. But you were going to say, Christine, had a comment.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, but that's a really important point that you made. So Christine says, I feel like I've needed to separate out. I embrace and support my local small business just as a person versus my business stuff to some degree. I can no longer invest my time and energy in hyper-local networking. For example, because it has gotten me nowhere and my time has been better spent elsewhere. But it would be off-brand for me as a human to not, say, go to my local coffee shops. So that's interesting. I think, we're all different. We all have different businesses. And it depends, again, on how you define the whole local thing. So, and Christine also says, there's a few other comments, and I'll get back to you, Christine, after the show, but thank you so much for all these comments. But she also says,
Indeed.
That's what I love most about live video. It's you, without a script, without a net. You need to engage as yourself. And this is why people find it scary. People find live video scary because, like, they press the go live button and their brain goes to mush. And this is why I say to, just get some practice. Just do some practice first. Practice with other people. Bring a guest on. And the other thing you could do, which is what I'm only doing now, I've actually got a teleprompter in front of me, not because I'm reading a script, but I've just got some notes. I've got some bullet points, just so that in case my brain does go to mush, which does happen. And I've also got it printed out here as well. So, just in case the teleprompter
it ups your game. It ups your game for sure. And I think I was going to say something. The other thing about live, I think, actually the point, you ever say that you have something to say, Ian, and it floats out of your brain. It's like hanging right here. I'm having one of those moments. What I wanted to say is like floating right up there. So you ask the next question. I forgot what I was going to say.
It happens to all of us. I think I wonder whether it's also for entrepreneurial types. I still struggles to say that word, entrepreneurial, but I managed to get it. That we are thinking about so many different things, and so it's easy to kind of like lose our brains. So we've talked about why personal brand is so important. So if I am a local business and I want to do live video in a local way for my local area. What's the best place to get started? Have you got any tips for us on how to get started? Should we buy a state-of-the-art studio with lights and a mega camera and microphone? I think you know where I'm going with this. What should we do?
Yeah, Ian and I launched a business yesterday. It's called $20,000studio.com. So if you just give us, if you just take a picture of your credit card and put it in the face. No, stop. Ian's not saying this for liability issues. Ian's like, Ramone, you're crashing my show. No, here's what I think you have to have. Seriously, if you want to do it relatively well live streaming. A, have a good phone. That's one. Just a good phone. 2, have a simple tripod, and Ian probably has a ton of this, but I'll just pull up something that I carry with me. Ian, you probably have thousands of these. I just want to show it. This is live, right? So if I can pull it out of my bag, here it goes, Ian. And you know what this is. You probably have 10 of them. Something like this is what I carry. With a little doohickey for the cell phone. And most of you know what this is already, but those who are new may not. You just screw that on there, and that's pretty much, man. I think, but I'd love to hear from you because you do this, much more than I do. I think that's all you need as a newbie starting out. Beyond that, yes, I think people should invest for sure. And as you've probably talked hundreds of times, Ian, lighting is important. How you look. If you're a white guy like Ian, you don't want to be looking pale. If you're a black guy like me, you don't want to be like you're the front of a National Geographic magazine or something. I hope that was not too non-PC. But point is, lighting is good. Audio is important. People have to hear you. So whether you have a cool mic like this or just your phone's audio, both could work, but you'll have to just figure that out. But lighting, audio, Ian, and to start off, man, that's it. But I do think as people evolve, hit up Ian and his resources for sure. I think having some live streaming software, the graphics Ian has, I think it just ups your game. It makes you look professional. Because I think the only thing I'll add to this, Ian, but I'd like your input because you're the professional in this, as it were. You don't want to look busted. If you know what I'm trying to say, that I think that does hurt you. Your phone is blurry, it's crackling, you're dark, and you're like in your kitchen, messy. I'd stay away from that today because, and as we take this today, everybody's up leveling. So you at least want to be at a certain level of looking pretty decent. That's what I think.
I think that's really important. And just so for podcast listeners, what Ramone was holding up there is it's a mini tripod. You can get these very inexpensively, and it had a little mount for your smartphone at the top. And you can get these very inexpensively. And absolutely, you're so right. You just start simply. Just start with your smartphone. It's the easiest way to go live. If you're going live to Facebook at least, or Instagram, YouTube Live, you need a bit more tech for that. But, if you're going live, I always recommend either Facebook or Instagram. And don't overcomplicate it. Just start. It's best to just have that confidence to go live and just be yourself. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You can bootstrap your live video studio over time. So totally agree with you.
And I'll add in, I was going to add, also watch others, because like how you did, you started the show off and simple things like that. That does take experience. And as you know, your first show will suck. First, I guarantee it, unless you're, already blessed to be pretty good at this. But you just want to watch others because, again, I don't want to scare people, Ian, so you can help me frame this, is that you do want to have a little bit of, I don't want to use the word professionality because people may get scared of it, but you want to have it look a little good. You want to have it, hey, my name is Jenny. This is my first show. Thanks for watching. We're going to talk about 3 things in real estate. Blah, blah, blah. A little bit of that. That's all I was trying to say, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't, it depends on what you mean by professional. I think you were saying that there are very, very simple things that you can do. So, for example, check your internet speed before you go live. Go to speedtest.net, check your internet. Because if you go live and like the picture's all blurry, that's not good. If you're on top of a hill or on top of a mountain and it's windy, that's probably not going to be good. They're going to hear whoosh and not hear you. So things like that, and then just make sure that you write down the first few things that you're going to say, so you know what you're going to say, and also check the lighting is all right. It doesn't have to be mega professional, but I think things like that, and then you're good to go. And you're right, the first few videos that you do, live videos, they're not going to be that great. But the good news is, it can only get better. Well, on the whole, it can. I mean, sometimes you're going to have disasters, but on the whole, they're going to get better, aren't they, Ramone?
Yeah, exactly right. And you just own it, meaning, I know what I want to say. I was just talking about the aspect of going live and just talking extemporaneously. The event we had, I was telling you about the event I was at yesterday. They were like, Ramone, we need you to keep talking for like 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. I had to just talk and do it. So I just wanted to express those are things that part of live, that was part of what I do for a living, hosting, but meaning whether it's live for your own show, other people's show, just own it, just go with it. And to your point, when mistakes happen, I think, Ian, and talking to others, you can't let perfection stop you. As Ian said today, right? He was very transparent in the final video. Maybe he'll edit this out or maybe it'll stay. I don't know. But the point is, he said comments didn't happen. This didn't happen. We're rolling. He's not panicking that we can see and freaking out. So my point is, this happens with live. So do be aware of that. A painting could fall. Things could happen. But how you shine is when crap happens around you, your game face. That's all that matters. Me and this lens. So you keep going on. The baby comes in, wife screams at you, "Why did you park the car?" And you say, "Hey, babe, I'm live right now. And sorry, I parked the car wrong. And what do you all think? Should I have parked the car wrong or right?" And you just keep moving.
That's so true. It is funny. I don't know about you, but there was a time when that kind of thing would faze me, and I would get really stressed. And I think the more I've done it, the more I realize those things don't matter. I mean, you're not going to ask for the painting to fall on top of you halfway through. But if it happens, it happens. Yeah. And actually that just brings a bit of reality to your live video, which that's kind of the way it is. We've got Mary Brandt watching, who's saying, "Good morning. I think you're from San Diego. Loved the PC comment. It was real." Christine Gritman says, "Yes, I've had guests drop off, sound, get lost, etc. And people always admire that I keep going because what can you do?" And I think that just takes practice. I mean, I'll be totally honest. That has taken me a while. There was quite a long while before I felt more comfortable with things going wrong. And it is frustrating. And there are things that you can do to make it less likely that you can for example, have a tech checklist that you can follow.
Yes.
One thing that you said, Ramone, that I think a lot of people do struggle with is when they go live, it's a lot easier if you go live with somebody else. Like what we're doing today, we're just having a conversation. It's a lot easier. Still today, I find doing solo broadcasts, and I do believe the power of the solo broadcast because it's just you, and I think that's really important. But they are more difficult, particularly because it doesn't feel a very natural thing to do. For most people to talk by themselves. And you mentioned that in an event they asked you to speak for another 5 minutes. That would freak a lot of people out. Is that something that you've always been able to do, or is it something that you've learned? And have you got any tips for us in terms of doing solo broadcasts?
Yeah, that's tough, Ian. I'd love your comments and thoughts on that. I do think it's something that can be learned, but I do think, and this is nothing. I have a lot of problems, Ian. We talk personally offline. I got a lot of issues I'm going through, but I think one thing I'm blessed to say that I can do is the gift of communication. I think the English word is extemporaneously. So that I do pretty well. I think it's a skill I have. I've honed it over the years. To those who are shy and can't do it, it's going to be tough. In fairness, that's one thing I'd say, for me just to pull up one of your listeners, go talk live right now for 15 minutes, unscripted, about what you know, but talk. It's hard for most people. My wife, I love her. Great woman, great human. That's just not her skill set. So I think to mitigate that now, because that would rarely happen unless you're probably being paid to do it. In that case, you'd be good at it, is have a little script. Ian showed his notes. He's a professional. Even Ian Anderson Gray has a script. So for yourself, even something small, I was going to pull up a document. It's my voting sheet. So, but, a little script where you're just having, mail-in ballot, a little script where you're having maybe the 3, 4, 5 comments you're going to talk about. That's probably all you need, because you don't want to also read it. Hi, my name is Ramone Ray. I'm here with Ian Anderson Gray. And my last name is Ray. No, you don't want to do that. But 4 bullet points, 5, that should carry you through whatever your cadence is. 15 minutes, 5 minutes. But you're right, Ian. Talking solo can be tough. It can be a bit lonely, a bit tough. But again, with practice, and I think to flesh out the full hint, you can do podcast and live video with someone. That's always good to do. But it's good practice, too, to do it solo, because it's about you, going back to personal branding. So the more that you're able to say, hey, this is Ramone Ray. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about these 3 things and go for it. You keep building that brand up. And then you work with content 10X to have a little video babies.
I love that. That's take it back to a little kind of symphony there we've gone back to the beginning. I think that's really helpful, because not everyone is going to find it easy. Some people may never be able to do it confidently, but I think the best way is just to keep practicing and try. Having bullet points in front of you has really helped me. And our mutual friend Jeff C says that when he has had solo shows, he's always already got like a list of questions that people might ask. So we today we've had a tech problem. I can't see the comments from most of the channels, but thankfully I can see them on Facebook. But if there was a tech disaster where I couldn't see any comments, or maybe I'm starting new and I don't have any live viewers, that's a common issue. Then if you have some pre-prepared questions that you can ask yourself, that helps. If you've got some stories that you can share with you, maybe write those down in front of you. I think that's probably a good thing to do as well.
Absolutely. Listen, people love stories, Ian, and this is way beyond just live video, but if it helps, you have I'm sure a diversified audience of newbies and experts. Stories are so impactful. Just starting out, I remember walking down the block. I was fired from the United Nations after having worked there for over 10 years. I was fearful. That's not a fake story, Ian. I'm launching into something that I could talk about. So that, though, I bet people listening, I didn't know Ramone was fired. What? They perked up from their cooking as they're listening to us or whatever. So stories are powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's when you are being a little bit more raw, you're talking about stuff. There's a word that has gone from my brain that I would use.
Vulnerable, maybe?
Vulnerable, that's the word.
Okay.
You're being vulnerable. And I think vulnerable is not always the right move. But if you are, I think in your case there, you were sharing that story to make a point that was helpful for your audience. So I think that is a really strong, powerful emotion to talk about that. And empathy as well. If you can talk about a struggle that you had that your perfect audience struggle with, then that is a good thing as well. I think that's really important. I can see that Christine said, I've had to start. Oh, this sounds stressful. I've had to start live streams before the guest was ready. That's happened to me, and had to deal live on camera with struggling with the tech to bring them on. Yeah. That happens. And I had Amanda Robinson came on the show. I had to get her on twice. So the first time, what happened? I'm trying to remember what happened the first time. Oh yeah, I had a power cut. Oh, so after about 5 minutes, I managed to get it back on in the dark with a torch, and I've got my tethering from my phone. Anyway, that was a disaster. And then she came back the week after, and what happened? Oh yeah, the internet went down in the whole of the country with Virgin Media, which is our ISP. So yeah, these things happen, and you've got to just.
It does.
You just got to roll with it, really.
And Ian, about the power outage, I did this. You know, this is not for everybody, but people like Ian and myself. Not that we're anything, but we do this kind of for a living. So I bought 2 uninterruptible power supplies. You may have them in your home. Ian, I bought that. And again, those who are just starting out, don't worry about it. Your phone, for the most part, could be your backup. Phone works well if you're able to like have that Zoom link on hot queue, whatever you want to call it. So you just hit it in case the PC goes down. But that's what I did. I got 2 UPSs that power my computer, my monitor, and a few other small things. Then I have one upstairs, which powers my router, because in this area, we have the power fluctuates a few times a year. Not so much. We're not living like in a farm country, but it goes. So for those who are getting into this more, especially if you're being paid to do it, you know, UPS costs, I forgot, whatever it costs. So it's another thing you could buy.
Yeah, but it's something I've been looking into, because I think as I do more, it would be, if my live show went down, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be frustrating.
Correct.
But if I'm doing presenting, or if I'm doing some video work for a brand, that's
Right.
more of a problem. And so I think if you for most people, getting one of those is probably overkill, but it's
Right.
an option. And I think looking at what are the fallback options? If this is mission critical, what do we need?
Right.
I
I mean, think about it, Ian.
yeah.
Your rates for speaking, Ian, are $175,000 an hour. So
Absolutely,
a client
yeah.
sends you that check of $175,000, Ian. It's probably worth it for you to pay, I don't know, $239 for a UPS.
Yeah, I think
Think
so.
about
I think
that.
so. But I still like a good bargain, you know. Oh, well, thank you so much, Ramone. We've run out of time. It's been awesome to have you on the show. You've given so much value to my audience. Thank you so much. I know that people will love to stalk you in a good way, and find out where you hang out on the socials and the interwebs. Where's the best place for people to reach out to you and see where you are?
And thanks for asking, Ian. And thank you for all that you do for your tribe, your community, your audience. Thank you for being a friend to so many of us and helping us and serving us, Ian. Thank you. But really, 2 places I'd love people to go to: RamoneRay.com, RamonRay, RamoneRay.com, and or SmartHustle.com. Check out those 2 sites to be inspired and educated to grow your small business, which is all that I do.
Well, that's awesome. And those links will be in the show notes at iag.me/81 when this podcast goes out, which is probably going to be a few weeks now. I've been just very productive, which is not a
Good.
bad thing. So yeah, but that will be at iag.me/81. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, that will be live right now, which is great. And where do you have a particular favorite social network that you tend to focus on?
Yeah, I think, you know, Ian, and I know time is short. We'll do this on another show, or maybe you're going to do one with another guest. LinkedIn stories, man. Now, I'm all over all of them. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter's most followers I have, so people can check me out there. But I found my tip, LinkedIn stories. I do story, not my cat and dog and stupid stuff, but a real business nugget. I'm finding that is ninja exploding, because those are where my checks, my money is coming from in the past. So now that I can do a quick LinkedIn story, VP of X, SVP of X, Director of X, they're watching that. Not to see me, I'm shaving, I'm making coffee. I don't post that stuff there. That's only on Instagram. But LinkedIn, yeah.
That's cool. I don't know whether I've got LinkedIn stories yet. I need to check, because it's been rolling out to a few. So yeah, if you're on LinkedIn, check out whether LinkedIn story, whether you've got LinkedIn stories. Just very quickly, how do people know whether they've got LinkedIn stories?
Yeah, it'll be right at the top of the bar. You go there, right at the top of your LinkedIn feed. You'll see it right there.
That's a great tip. Well, thank you, Ramone. It's been awesome to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And until next time, I encourage you to level up your... my brain has gone complete to mush. That's great, isn't it? That happens right at the end. I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of Confident Live Video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Confident Live Marketing Podcast with Ian Anderson Gray. Be sure to join the community at iag.me, where you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. And until next time, toodaloo.